Assalamualaikum, sir. Hello. Can you hear me, sir? Hello. Hello, Mr. Faisal.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm fine, Alhamdulillah.
Mr. Zakir, can you hear me?
Ji, Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Assalamualaikum, Faisal.
Walaikum assalam.
Start, yeah.
Walaikum assalam.
So, still have 4 minutes, right?
So, Dr. Sahib Zada Ali will be joining us in a while, and then we'll formally start the session. Yeah.
Thank you. You have a very unique name, Avaisha.
Yeah, it's Avesha.
Avaisha. What does it mean? Meaning of Avaisha?
Yes, sir. We are live on YouTube and LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was just asking the meaning of your name, Avaisha.
Okay. It means the same as Aisha.
So, how long this session is going to be?
30-45 minutes.
Fair enough.
Still 2 minutes to go. Mr. Faisal, can you please turn on your video? We will start in 1 minute. Okay, we'll start the session.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum. This is Vaishnavi from CxO TV, a channel of CxO Global Forum. CxO Global Forum is a knowledge-sharing platform for all thought leaders around the world. We are proud to have influential leaders on our platform with a mission to unlock value for digital transformation and innovation across the world. Welcome to CxO Influencers Digital Roundtable. Today, the topic is importance of cybersecurity. We have our esteemed panelists. I'll introduce Dr. Sahibzada, who will be joining us shortly. He is a managing director at Khyber Pakhtunkhwa IT Board and has 17 years of diverse experience in ICT. Then we have Mr. Faisal Memon. Mr. Faisal, can we see you? Can you please turn on your video?
Yes, sure. Actually, I have some.
Okay. Mr. Faisal is Group Head of IT Operations and SAP at Fauji Fertilizer Bin Qasim and has 25 years of diverse experience in IT. Thank you for being with us today, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Then we have Mr. Syed Zakir Ali Rizvi. He is Head IT Systems, Cybersecurity, and Power Generation Audits at K Electric. He has 21 plus years of impactful experience in IT systems and security operations. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Indrisha. It's a pleasure meeting you.
So there has been growth in digital attacks globally, with signals that cybersecurity has risen near the top of risks companies face. My first question from you, Mr. Zakir, what is actually cybersecurity?
Well, to understand cybersecurity, one has to understand what cyber is actually. Cyber is just the communication between computers and related technologies communicating with each other. When they communicate, this is for an objective. The objective is to virtualize the data information that is necessary for the businesses to operate. Now, when these things are being communicated across, these need to be secured from potential breaches. Now, if we have to secure all these, this particular operating space, this space is usually called the cybersecurity space. So to collectively answer your question, I think the connected web we have all around the globe right now, which is more or less comprised of information and operational technologies. Cybersecurity is there to protect the data assets and the information that is critical to the business for their survival and growth.
Thank you. Mr. Faisal, you still there?
Yes,
can you hear us?
Sorry, my video
okay.
is
Right. Okay. So, Mr. Zakir just talked about protecting the data. When we say this in cybersecurity, is there any difference between threat, vulnerability, and risk?
Yes. Let me explain all the three terms which we have identified. First of all, thank you for inviting me in the session. Actually, a threat is what we are trying to protect against. And it might consist natural threats such as floods, hurricane, and unintentional threats like employee making mistakenly accessing the wrong information. Then we have some intentional threats such as spyware, malware, adware. So these are the type of threats which we can see. For vulnerability, it might be said that it is basically a weakness of an asset or resource that can be exploited by one or more attackers. Like we have a team member who was working with us and he resigned from the job. But what we did, we have forgotten to disable his accounts, changing his login IDs, and the other information which is available within the company or the organization, which need to be changed, which we were supposed to change, but we have not done that thing, and this make the door open for the chances that that he can do anything wrong with the organization. Third thing, the risk basically. Now, this is basically defined as the potential loss or damage which a threat can exploit a vulnerability, which may include financial losses, loss of privacy, damage to the reputation, legal implication, and even loss of life. Like you have asked these three terms, I would like to go a little bit in detail. That, first of all, when we are talking about the cybersecurity, actually we must be knowing that what we are protecting, what we are trying to protect. That is the asset which basically need to be protected, and one must be very much clear about that what the asset is. Our people working with us, our team, information, data, hardware, software, the systems, devices, the functions, which are working in our organization, the ideas, the intellectual property, the corporate reputation, our brand, our identity, and the facilities. These all are our assets. Now, what we have to do, we have to clearly define and identify what are our critical assets which need to be protected, and what is the critical information which need to be protected. Now, in the organization, once we have a data or information or any asset which is available, we must first of all classify that data, that which data is important to us, which is critical, which is top secret, which can be shared with the public, which cannot be shared with the public. Then the other thing, the asset which is confidential, private, which is sensitive, or the data which can be publicly shared. Now, there are many, if you talk about the industry practice, there are a lot of things which need to be protected, like the organization which are any type of plant, manufacturing plant, they have different type of systems. Like they have supervisory control and data acquisition systems, SCADA, the distributed control systems, DCS, then program logic control. Now these all type of systems where they are directly operating the system with these systems, these also need to be protected. Now one must be clear that what and how to protect, and what are challenges that can be met with this. So some of the current critical security controls are inventory of authorized and unauthorized devices. In the organization, when we are working, there are many users who are bringing their BYOD, bring their own devices, which are not basically protected with any antivirus or any legal softwares. They are connecting that system with our main network. So this is a threat to us. Now the software which we are installing, either they are licensed or not, either we are patching or updating them regularly or not. So these all are the challenges which we have. These are the challenges for us. Then the malware defense and all these things.
Right. We'll come back to challenges later. Thank you so much, Mr. Faisal, for clarifying difference between threat, vulnerability, and risk. I'll request again if you can turn on your camera for our audience. Just as you talked about, it has a cost when you are, let's say, addressing threat or a risk, or if your data or asset is vulnerable. My next question is with Mr. Zakir. What is the cost in terms of time and monetary value for addressing the breach, if there is?
I think for me, coming back from the experience that I've got, I think the time and the effort that is needed to recover from a breach is largely less reported or underestimated by most managements. Unfortunately, for the last 10 to 20 years, Information security is something that is growing and evolving tremendously. But somehow or the other, managements and generally the institutions just are limited to understand what sort of effort would be required to recover from that particular position. Now, I would like to emphasize on three things here. Uh, First, you need to identify what sort of a cybersecurity attack we are talking about. For instance, if it is a ransomware sort of an attack, in which most of your critical data has been encrypted, and now you need to recover your data. You need to have this encryption removed, and you want to repossess the data that you've just lost. Now, there is a value associated to it, and then there is a reputational loss associated to it, and then there is a big risk that you will be subjected to this sort of an attack again in the future. The other one is where you've been denied that there is a distributed denial of service sort of an attack in which your servers are no longer able to service the objective business has set for them. And now your unavailability in eyes of the customer can really hurt you a lot. So customers won't be treating you with the trust they were supposed to treat you earlier. Now, this will take a lot of time to recover actually. And the monetary loss is most of the accounting books cannot be, it cannot be measured. The third one is, for instance, if you are being misrepresented in the industry for something that you have never done before. For instance, you have multiple attacks such as cyber squatting, or you can say typo squatting. So you have been given, your reputation is being tarnished. Now you need to recover from that tarnish the image that you've got in the industry. Now the cost associated at the time it will take for the customers to really trust you back with whatever they have is immense. So in this growing fast-paced world, there are many new things, there are many new organizations coming up, there are many new national institutions coming into play. But one needs to understand the more faster they come, the more faster they go as well. So most of the institutions probably, I see in the next 10 years, will be winding up their things just because of these threats. So the loss is pretty much high. It is no defined measurement of this loss. You can have US and you can have the UK communities coming up with different standards that are reprimanding their clients for whatever they found in breach, but that is just a monetary level loss. I think the more critical loss is the reputation loss businesses do suffer. So I think, in my honest and humble opinion, there is no process in the organization to really understand the cost that it takes for the business to recover from a breach. And for all the management gurus, this is not something that they ever hedge. As Faisal was pointing out, you need to understand what your asset is and how you need to protect it out. So one needs to understand if that asset is being compromised, what's the cost the company is willing to pay for this. So I think this is very critical and a very relevant point. And to answer you rightly and briskly, this cost has never been estimated.
Right. So against the cost that can never be estimated, Mr. Faisal, what are the advantages of cybersecurity then?
Actually, when we are talking about the advantages of cybersecurity, once it is implemented, once you are trying to do take some measures, you are basically everything which is digitized in your business that need to be protected. Now the advantage which we'll be getting that if we are going digitized, we are going on cloud, we are going publishing our data on any internet or any communication device, then you need actually that if you apply cybersecurity measures, it will be advantage for you. Then the other thing, protecting of personal information. Now the fintech side and now every side which is actually the online marketing, online purchasing, all these things, all this stuff, you are publishing your information, your personal information is being shared. So the customers, yourself, the organization, they want that data to be secured enough. They don't want that the company or the website which is asking and demanding your data, and they are not protecting it, naturally, after some time, they will not come to you. Thirdly, it will allow your employee to work safely. Actually, what we have seen, like in the office or in your organization, if you have any virus attack, so naturally your employee productivity will be decreased, because if my PC is not working, my laptop is not working, because these type of softwares and viruses, what they do, they actually slow down the process. You are not even able to work it out. So if you are taking the measures, naturally your employee that productivity will be increasing. Now, the other thing, if you are protecting your websites, suppose I am a customer, I want to visit your website and it is not available, then what will be done? My customer will not come next time. So I have to take measures to protect my website. The information which is being captured on my site, that must be protected. Then the other thing is protecting the data from theft. The data which is being stored in my storage, either it is on premise, either it is on cloud, that need to be protected somewhere. It must be protected in a way that nobody can steal it, or it must be encrypted, that if anyone is getting access to that data, he must not be able to easily decrypt it. So that measures, if I am taking that measures, even the email, if it is not encrypted, then naturally, if it is taken by someone else, he can take my information, which is might be valuable for me, and that can damage to me. Also, it minimizes the computer freezing and crashes. Your ransomware, like your information is being stolen by somewhere, some hackers. They want to damage your reputation. They want to damage your organization. They want to damage, to take money from you. So naturally, if you are protecting and making such steps, like you are having a firewall, you are having an antivirus software. Now, just installing this thing is not easy, because you regularly have to update that thing. You have to update the softwares, you have to protect regularly, you have to update the firmwares, keep your data files updated, so that you are protected from them. Now, what disadvantages we have? Like one, if we are implementing, taking the measures to have a cybersecurity implemented, naturally there are some disadvantages also. The firewalls are not easy to be configured. You must be having a technical resources who must be trained enough, must be knowing all the threats and vulnerabilities. They must be aware what is what type of threats are available in the market and in this area, so you can configure it. You may have to block multiple sites. You may have, now, if I am blocking the sites, there might be some sites which need to be accessed by the users, because user are nowadays business is more demanding from the IT. They want that everything should be available to them. So the conflict between your own customer and the IT people, that is also main point where they must be on one page. The other thing, if we are implementing all these measures, what now if suppose I have blocked my any USB from the user end of at the endpoint. Now user come to me that I want to copy this data, I want to save this, or I want to share this thing. Now if you are not providing him any alternate way, then the training, necessary awareness, the education, this must be in parallel within the organization, so that your organization, your internal customers, your users, your employees must have trust on IT, and they must be taking these type of measures.
Thank you so much, Mr. Faisal, for a very thorough response. Welcome, Dr. Ali, to the session. Can you please turn on your video for our audiences? Dr. Ali, can you hear us?
Thank you. Yes, I can. I'll turn on the video in a minute.
Yeah, sure. So, Mr. Faisal just highlighted about the disadvantages of cybersecurity as well. Very interesting. I'll ask the question from Mr. Zakir. do you think then that is actually a business problem as well, or could it be a business problem?
Can you please rephrase the question? Are you asking that is cybersecurity a business problem, or is cybersecurity a business consideration?
A business problem.
Business problem. Well, I think absence of cybersecurity is definitely a business problem. And I would like to further add what Faisal was just making a point over there. I don't think that cybersecurity is something that can be picked up as an advantage. I think it's a necessity now. It is something without which you cannot operate. Its absence is going to cost you dearly. Now, the disadvantage of securing is that one of my mentors, I remember him saying that he was of the opinion that business has to exist to be secure. So security, there has to be a fine balance between convenience the business requires and how you need to protect that business as a going concern. So I think the more, I think if I have to explain cybersecurity being a business concern, yes, it is a business concern because every business wants to continue, and for it to continue, that cybersecurity framework has to work diligently. Now, it can be a business challenge. Yes, it can be a business challenge because putting up too much controls can actually deter the convenience user actually demand from the business for their service to be facilitated. And I think this is where Faisal is coming from, and he very rightfully said that technology need to be very well harnessed by people who know it best, because their inaction can, on one end, can put business in a severe critical position, but on the other hand, it can also disallow people from leveraging from that service the business is extending and making profits from. So I think cybersecurity today is an integral part of business. If you have to do any business, whether it is a national institution, whether it is it's a startup, any entrepreneurial activity, I think cybersecurity is a must. It will remain a concern for businesses to operate from. Just if we can look back what really recently happened with FBR data, I think this is a real good eye opener for us. It became a concern because it was exploited. Now, before that, it was also a concern because they need to protect this thing moving forward. So to answer you briskly, I think yes, cybersecurity is a concern, and it will remain a concern, and probably something that will keep all of us really working hard to protect.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Just as Mr. Zakir talked about how cybersecurity is actually a necessity now. So my question with you is, how will it impact business productivity?
So it can impact business productivity depending on what kind of threats the business faces. It also depends on what type of business it is. And regardless of whether, we can talk about businesses, but we also need to see the threats that we can face depending on our own landscape. So since I work in a public sector organization, we also face different types of cyber threats. Businesses, they can face different types of threats because there are different types of actors in the cybersecurity space. So if you are talking about cyber criminals, they are more likely to target businesses, conventional businesses. Those can be different types of attacks, ranging from affecting their business continuity and stealing data, and there can be so many different types of options that they can exercise. In the public sector, the threats can be of a different nature because there is a terminology used which is known as an advanced persistent threat, and it can be from nation states as well. For example, we have certain hostile neighbors from whom we always expect a certain type of attack, They usually do that on these important days that we have, for example, our Independence Day, and so many other days. We usually witness activity from nation states that target our different websites, government websites. The idea is, the idea is to basically embarrass, cause embarrassment for us by doing that. When we talk about businesses, obviously, depending on the kind of threat these businesses face, there is always a chance of disrupting their activities. Business continuity matters a lot. And we've seen that there have been attacks on some of our businesses in the past, ranging from ransomware attacks to other types of attacks. So if we take an example of ransomware attack, because in that the cyber criminal has a lot of financial incentives, because they can easily decrypt all your data, make it unavailable to the business, and that can seriously disrupt the operations of a business. So also there are different reports that have recently been published, which show that the incentives, the economic incentives for cyber criminals, they are going to increase in the next couple of years. The total size in the cyberspace is estimated to be in trillions of dollars. So with more economic incentives, financial incentives for these cyber criminals, obviously the attacks on businesses can be expected to grow. And also, once a business suffers an attack, depending on what type of attack it is, it can seriously disrupt their operations, and business continuity can suffer as a result. So we need to be always vigilant. And if, for example, I'm running a business, I would obviously be concerned about the kind of threats that the business that I'm running, what kind of threats that it could face regarding protection of its digital assets.
Right. So thank you for.
Can I add a few points to what Dr. Ali was saying? I think
Sure. Go ahead.
I would like to add that yes, there are rogue nations, and there is APT is a reality, and there are critical actors that are moving around. There are specific teams that are operating around the globe, and they have specific targets. Most of these targets are politically motivated. Some of these are geospatially designed to inflict damage on neighboring nations or regional nations. But I think apart from embarrassing a nation for its less defense of its critical assets, I think the economic aspect is a due consideration as well. For instance, if a nation is unable to protect its taxpayers' credentials, now how damaging it could be for businesses coming in and investing in this particular economy. If a nation is unable to protect its key critical infrastructure with a big size of data, and is unable to protect, apart from embarrassing, I think it has an economic misadventure as well. And I think apart from businesses that lose directly from where they stand, I think as a nation, and with the digitalization and the single window operation, and with consolidation on the block, and we'll be having a lot of things interconnected to one solo platform. I think apart from embarrassing, it will be something that will be causing us great financial mistrust as well. So very rightfully said, but I would like to add that apart from their misbehavior, misadventurism, I think this has every potential to cause us economically as well, which makes it even more critical to attend by all the related authorities and all the functionaries around.
Yeah. Okay, so talking specifically about the fintech sector, Dr. Ali, what are top cybersecurity threats in the fintech sector?
So there can be different types of attacks. Like I said, one favorite attack these days is the ransomware attack. And the fintech industry, because it deals with financial services and financial data is considered to be sensitive data because it can have so many repercussions if that data is acquired by somebody who doesn't have the right intentions in cyberspace. So it can be exploited in so many different ways. So there are threats looming around. Like I said, in the future, it is expected that in the next 2 to 3 years, the incentives for cyber criminals are going to increase. And obviously, when you're talking about the financial services industry with so many different fintechs coming up these days, it's crucial for them to ensure that their information security aspects are covered. They are able to secure their assets. They ensure that whatever kind of platform they're developing or they're using, they continuously are vigilant, and they ensure that every kind of possible vulnerability can be. It's not usually possible to cover all aspects of your information security related aspects, but still, I mean, there are best practices available through which you can ensure a reasonable level of security. Apart from cyber attacks, there is always a possibility that there is somebody who's working for a certain fintech company and that person is a disgruntled employee, or there can be so many other factors, and that results in a data breach, which is usually, I mean, if you look at so many reports, many of them would indicate that a majority percentage of data breaches that occur are because of it's an inside job by an employee. So you have to be internally vigilant as well regarding who has access to what kind of data. So access controls, they are very important to be put in place so that you are able to protect your data internally, as well as externally. You are able to adopt the kind of practices, information security practices, that ensures a reasonable level of protection from cyber attacks.
Dr. Ali, I'll request again to turn on your video for our audience. Mr. Faisal, just as Dr. Ali talked about the internal as well as the external factors relevant to the cybersecurity threats, I want to ask you, what do you think are some of the cybersecurity challenges that are specific to fintech firms only?
Actually, when we are talking about the fintech sector, there are two things which I want to highlight. The cloud computing security issue. Now, more financial services like digital wallets, payment gateways, internet banking, they all are relying on cloud-based platform. Now, the benefit of cloud computing is undeniable. You are actually using this speed, accessibility, scalability. You are using it. Now, your lots of data is flowing through it, and this makes the cloud a perfect smoke screen for the attackers. So the next thing is the malware attack. This is also more prominent. Basically, the series of attacks on SWIFT, the Society of World Interbank Financial Telecommunication. This protocol is mostly being used by most of the banks and financial institutes. But now the fintech sector is moving from it, and now they are more focusing on blockchain-based payment protocols. Next, we have application breaches. Now, when you are using mobile applications or online application, your data is available on the mobile phones, your data is available on cloud. So when I have a mobile, I installing multiple application, and what they are demanding that allow your camera, allow your contact information, allow your storage to be accessible by them. So this is the actually you are providing access to your all the information. Then the money laundering and cryptocurrency related risk. These have gained a lot of popularity in recent years. Then the identity theft. Most financial institutes use biometric, then the password and one-time payment to ensure the security transition. In the last, if you remember, there was a news on the Pakistan news channels that they have made some prototype or some thumb impression copies of your thumb impression, and they are misusing that information. Then we have some compliance requirement which need to be done by need to be followed. the banks and all the electronics fintech institute, they must comply to that requirement. Like we have a state bank here, they must follow the rules what they are implementing. They like we have a cybersecurity policy, Pakistan cybersecurity policy, which is recently issued. They also mentioned that for fintech sectors, they must be having some rules and regulation to be followed to provide those services. Then failing to meet the compliance is also a majority flaw, because when we see the institute which are providing the services, there are loopholes. The services, the software, the employees, they now if we are hiring an employee, we are not taking proper measures to actually trace back from where he is coming from. This is also a major threat to the company. Then the financial challenges. Now, in this fast-moving world, if your reputation is once damaged, so naturally the customer will not be coming to you. Then comes the mobile platform and IoT. Now we are mostly moving to these platform. All our devices are now our IoT devices are accessing the information. Although we are automating ourselves, but on the same way we are providing access to more and more information, more and more access to our devices, information to the outside world. Then actually the convenience of security. Customer want fast access for the financial product. If I am having giving the services, but my website is not working, it is not responding a large number of customers, it is unable to provide timely services. Like we have seen that there are some websites, some results are announced by some of the board, and a lot of people are accessing that site. We see that site is not accessible. In the same way, if a fintech site, it's providing the services, but they are not managing user experience, they are not managing user acceptance on their website, naturally the customer will be moving out of it. Few more things which I want to, sorry, if you allow me, there are few frameworks.
Sure, go ahead.
Few frameworks which must be implemented, or which must be reviewed by all the organization using digital transaction or having access to it. There is ISO 27001, which is related to information security. Then we have ISO 27017, which talks about the cloud security. Then we have ISO 27005, IT risk management. Then 27018, it's basically related to personally identifiable information. Now the fintech sector must be implementing those things, that the personal identifiable information must be protected. Then we have ISO 20000, ITL implementation, COBIT, then PCI DSS. This is related to specifically for the payment card data security. Then we have ISO 22301, which talks about business continuity. If your business is anyhow, it is in attack or it was captured by some hackers, there must be a mechanism to recover that data. There must be a disaster recovery management plan for you to come and turn up your business. Then we have more other standards which are basically used for, must be understood, must be followed, and as per requirement you can implement in your organization.
Right. Thank you. So, Dr. Ali, just as Mr. Faisal talked about different standards, I want to ask, what are the other standards or, let's say, industries leading cybersecurity solutions?
So there are standards and there are frameworks that businesses and other organizations can adopt. There is the NIST framework, which has a set of best practices that organizations can adopt. Then, for example, there are other organizations, like there is TrustArc, for example. They have a set of compliances, and if you are able to, adhere to those compliances, they provide you with their own seal, which you can use on your website, for example, and other platforms that you're using, that also gives kind of assurance to your customers and other people who are using your website that this particular business or organization is using certain set of best practices. Like Zakir mentioned a while ago, he was mentioning the attacks from nation states, for example, if they are able to disrupt a government organization, or they usually attack government organizations, but even if it's a business that is attacked and it causes a data breach or loss of data, that can also reflect really bad on their credentials, and they can lose customers really fast. So it's important to adhere to these best practices that are available. ISO 27001 that has already been mentioned. There are also IT governance related standards that one can adopt that ensures that certain practices are followed, which also ensures that your data is safe to a certain extent. So there are different options that are available. It usually depends on the kind of business or the kind of organization that you're running and what kind of threats that you expect, based on which you can take a certain decision.
Right. So can you please shed some light on Pakistan's cybersecurity policy? Dr. Ali, yeah.
Yeah, so we have been discussing various aspects related to the national cybersecurity policy with the Ministry of IT and Telecom lately, since they posted the first draft on their website for comments. I think it's about time that we have taken a solid initiative in that direction, because this should have been done ideally about 10 years ago. But nevertheless, since a step has been taken, it's quite commendable. And I think it's a first step. If you go through the policy, it outlines some basic infrastructure based requirements. It basically mentions the formation of certs at provincial levels. It has a governance framework that should be put in place that can ensure a reasonable level of cybersecurity. I think capacity building, the availability of good human resource, and the amount of funding that the government allocates to this initiative is going to play an important role, because at one end, when you're talking about cybersecurity, you also have to tackle cybercrime, and you have to, when you're doing it at a national level, like I said before, the APTs, the advanced persistent threats. You see, nation states, they invest a lot of money in improving their cyber capabilities, and the kind of cyber attacks that they can they can make regarding the states that they consider hostile. There can be so much spyware that can be inserted in our system, which can silently send them information without us knowing. So you have to really invest a lot in the cybersecurity related initiatives to make it really effective. Otherwise, just coming up with a governance structure, it's a good thing that has happened, and it's similar to what is there in other countries, like for example in UK, France, other countries. It's a similar kind of a governance framework, but the thing that's going to matter a lot is the kind of effort that we also that is done in a matter of capacity building and investing some resources to make it really effective.
Thank you. My last question from Mr. Zakir. A growing digital economy means more cybersecurity challenges?
Definitely. I think there's no other thoughts to this. This is obvious that right from the barter system, we've gone to the gold economy, then we've moved to the petrodollar economy, and we are moving in the dollar economy. Now we're going into virtual currencies, which you call cryptocurrencies. And probably in good times, probably not more than 5 to 10 years, data will be the new economy that's going to be building its way around. And as Ali was very rightfully identifying, that it's very necessary that whatever data you have, do you are you really sure that you are the only one who is using it for the intention that you put it for them to use? I think digital economy, apart from cryptocurrency, I think data would be the next big thing that would be coming up.
Yeah.
And securing data is the foremost and the only objective of cybersecurity. And all of these elements, whether you talk about management systems that are more about arranging the controls to build a holistic objective out, or you have definite solutions that can assist cyber deterrence for your infrastructure, or you can have relevant governance to actually ensure what actually you need to protect and how you're protecting it. I think the most critical thing is to know what exactly is to be protected, who has to protect
Yeah.
it, the awareness about that
Yeah.
protection, the visible knowledge about it, how it can really impact you. And I think going forward, there will be no more wars with nukes and warheads. It will be more about the digital wars, the cyber warfare, which usually our ministries will usually talk about. And this is the only thing that is going to affect you. If it is affecting you, it is going to affect your economy as well. An economy would be the 80% effectee in this case. So yes, cybersecurity, the threats will grow. The cyber criminals will be incentivized more. We have ransomware as a service, which is out there. You can hire anyone to do any sort of a cyber attack and pay you the premium. So it's highly incentivized. So we have many independent platforms and forums that are actually facilitating hacking, cracking, and these stuffs. So I think with the economy growing up, with the opportunities that are out there, the digital interconnection that is out there, from the social platform to any other platform, I think IoTs or the industrial control systems or the businesses, how they're moving, everything, when it will be connected, it will be housing a lot of data, and that data would be mobilizing your economy. And any threat to this data is indirectly or directly a threat to the economy. So yes, I think, and very rightly pointed out by Ali as well, okay, economy, as you grow, appreciation has to be there, because you need to protect now different level of economy. So I think human investment, awareness, the investment in awareness, and the way we need to identify a culture where we actually understand what we need to protect is something which is dearly missing right now. And I think much work has to be done, and probably Ali and their colleagues will be doing a good job over there. And I think good luck to them. And collectively, if we can foster an environment that really does good in this particular way, that will be excellent.
I am sure, inshallah. Thank you so much, Mr. Zakir. Mr. Pesky, you want to add something to it?
I think I've said a lot, and I think when it comes to cybersecurity, it's something that being a cybersecurity professional, you cannot be a complacent individual. You have to be, the paranoia has to be there. You need to understand there are many things that can go wrong. And I would like to make one point over here. Yes, we are investing in infrastructure. Yes, we are investing in programs and frameworks, and there's nothing bad about it. But I think there is a very big gap in the way our administrators or our custodians of data have been trained versus the skill set the cyber criminals have. Now, if you really expect your technology professionals, your administrators, your key architects, your solution architects, are they really prepared to deter what cyber criminals have for them to have for the capacity the cyber criminals are growing at? I don't think so. I think we have a much bigger gap over there. And the sooner we start in this particular side, the better it will be. And we need to understand from a ghost nation sort of a view, I think they are very rightfully pointed out by Ali that they have been heavily invested upon. So they know probably a million ways to do any bad thing to you. Now, we really need to ponder, are we really building our infrastructure in the way we are digitizing most of the things? And There is no other way to about it. But what we need to understand is this infrastructure really in hands of people who are competent enough, who are really being geared to the level the cyber criminals thinking of? And I think if the sooner we address this gap, the better it will be. And I hope with people around and with people are working really well right now. But there is a lot to do, and we as acute ambassadors can work in our own capacity in understanding this threat to our industries and probably at the nation level as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Zakir, Mr. Faisal, Dr. Ali, for being with us on our CxO Influencers Digital Roundtable. Yes, definitely there's a lot to do, but we together as key thought leaders will definitely put in our values for digital transformation and innovation across the country and the globe, inshallah. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a privilege talking to you. And it was a privilege listening to you, Faisal Saab and Dr. Ali Saab. It was a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.